My name is Michael Thompson, and I live in a tidy split-level house in Westchester, New York, where the lawns are manicured and the neighbors wave like they're auditioning for a sitcom. I'm 48, a logistics manager at a firm in White Plains, and my life runs like clockwork. Up at 6:30, coffee by 6:45, out the door by 7:15. My wife, Emily, is 46, a real estate agent who's always chasing the next sale, her phone buzzing with clients even during dinner. We've been married for 20 years, and our son, Zach, is 19, off at Boston University, leaving our home quieter than a library after hours. It's just us now, and the silence has a way of settling into your bones. Our days blur together. I slog through spreadsheets and meetings, while Emily dashes between open houses, her heels clicking like a metronome. We eat dinner at the kitchen island, grilled chicken or takeout, usually trading small talk about work or Zach's latest text. The spark we had in our 20s, when we'd stay up laughing over cheap wine, has dulled into something comfortable, like an old sweater. I don't resent it, not exactly, but sometimes I catch myself staring out the window, wondering when life became so predictable. The house started showing our neglect. Dust coated the bookshelves, dishes stacked up in the sink, and the laundry basket overflowed like it was staging a protest. I brought it up one night over salmon. "We should hire a housekeeper," I said, swirling my wine. Emily's fork froze mid-air, her hazel eyes narrowing. "A stranger in our house? Michael, we don't need that. It's a waste." She's always been practical, her mind on budgets and bottom lines. I argued it would free up her time, ease the strain. She pushed back, saying it felt like an invasion, but I could see the exhaustion in her tight smile. After a week of debates, me pointing out the chaos, her citing costs, she relented, though her size said she wasn't thrilled. We posted an ad on a local job board, and I felt a flicker of excitement, like I was shaking up our routine. The applications came fast, college kids, retirees, a few with no experience. We sifted through them over coffee one Saturday, Emily's pen tapping impatiently. Most were duds too young, too vague, or asking for too much. Then we found Laura's. Her resume was sharp, 45 years old, a decade of experience, references that glowed. "She seems solid," I said, glancing at Emily. She shrugged, her lips a thin line. "Fine. Set up an interview." I nodded, ignoring the odd anticipation curling in my chest, like the air before a summer storm. Laura arrived the next week, and the house felt different the moment she stepped inside. She was 45 but looked younger, her dark hair pulled into a loose bun, her brown eyes sharp and warm, like they could see right through you. Her accent, soft, maybe Polish or Ukrainian, gave her words a lilt. She wore a simple blouse and jeans, but there was a confidence in her stride, a quiet energy that filled the room. Emily asked her questions with a clipped tone, availability, tasks, references. Laura answered smoothly, her smile steady, her hands folded neatly. I stayed quiet, watching her fingers, long and sure, as she gestured. By the end, even Emily couldn't object. "She starts Monday," Emily said as Laura left, her voice flat. I nodded, but Laura's smile lingered in my mind, a spark in the monotony of our lives. I told myself it was nothing, just relief at finally getting help. But deep down, I knew something was shifting, and I wasn't sure I was ready for it. Laura started on a crisp Monday morning, her arrival as subtle as a breeze but impossible to ignore. I was home that day, working remotely, my laptop open on the dining table as emails piled up. The front door clicked open at 9 sharp, and there she was, carrying a tote bag with cleaning supplies, her dark hair catching the sunlight streaming through the foyer. "Good morning, Michael," she said, her voice low, with that faint accent, Polish, I decided, though I hadn't asked. Her smile was warm, almost conspiratorial, and I felt a jolt, like I'd touched a live wire. "Morning," I mumbled, focusing on my screen, pretending the numbers in my spreadsheet were riveting. She moved through the house with quiet efficiency, transforming chaos into order. The kitchen counters gleamed, the hardwood floors shone, and the air carried a faint scent of lavender. I stole glances from my makeshift office, watching her dust the bookshelves, her movements fluid, like a dancer's. Her jeans hugged her curves, and her blouse shifted slightly as she reached up, revealing a sliver of skin at her waist. I looked away, my face warm, telling myself to focus. She was here to clean, nothing more. But every time she passed by, her presence tugged at me, a magnet I couldn't quite resist. Emily was out, showing a colonial in rye, and wouldn't be back until evening. I should have been grateful for the quiet, but Laura's humming soft, melodic, filled the house, pulling me out of my work. Around noon, she appeared in the dining room, wiping her hands on a cloth. "Mind if I take a break?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. Her eyes, deep brown and sharp, held mine a moment too long. "Sure," I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. "Want some coffee?" She nodded, and I busied myself at the machine, hyper-aware of her watching me. We sat, mug steaming, and talked, small things at first, the weather, the house, how she liked Westchester. Her voice had a rhythm, each word deliberate, and I found myself leaning in, caught by the way her lips curved around a laugh. She told me she'd moved here years ago, after a rough divorce, and now lived alone in a small apartment in Yonkers. "It's quiet," she said, her gaze dropping to her mug, "but I like to keep busy." There was a weight to her words, a hint of something unspoken, and I felt a pang of curiosity I knew I shouldn't indulge. As the days passed, Laura became a fixture in our home, coming twice a week. Emily was civil but distant, thanking Laura curtly before rushing off to her next appointment. I, on the other hand, found excuses to be home when Laura was there. A forgotten file, a half day at the office, anything to catch a moment of her presence. She'd smile when she saw me, a private kind of smile, and once, when she handed me a glass of water, her fingers brushed mine, lingering just a second too long. My pulse quickened, and I turned away, muttering about a call I had to take. But the truth was, I couldn't stop noticing her, the way her hair fell loose when she bent to scrub the floor, the quiet strength in her hands, the way her laughter filled the empty spaces of the house. One afternoon, as she was leaving, she paused at the door, her bag slung over her shoulder. "You're different when Emily's not here," she said, her tone light but pointed. I froze, my keys in hand. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. She shrugged, her eyes glinting. "Just an observation." Then she was gone, leaving me standing in the foyer, my heart thudding. I told myself I was imagining things, that her words were harmless. But at night, as Emily slept beside me, her steady breathing a contrast to my restless thoughts, I couldn't shake the image of Laura's smile. It was dangerous, I knew, but it was also alive, something I hadn't felt in years. And that scared me more than anything. It was a Thursday, and the house was still when I got home at 3. Emily was out, showing a property in Greenwich, her text saying she'd be late, probably past 8. I dropped my keys on the hall table, the clink loud in the quiet. Laura was in the living room, folding a throw blanket, her movement slow, almost deliberate. "Early again, Michael," she said, her voice low, that Polish lilt curling around my name. She didn't look up, but a smile played on her lips, and my pulse quickened. "Slow day," I said, tugging at my tie, my eyes lingering on her. Her hair was loose today, dark waves spilling over her shoulders, and her blouse clung softly to her frame. I meant to head upstairs, but my feet stayed rooted. "Want coffee?" she asked, setting the blanket down and moving toward the kitchen. I nodded, following her, the air between us thick with something unspoken. In the kitchen, she leaned against the counter as the coffee brewed, her eyes meeting mine. "You look tired," she said, her tone soft but probing. "Work's a grind," I replied, trying to keep it light, but her gaze held me, warm and unyielding. We talked about her past, a small town in Poland, a life of starting over. Her voice was like a current, pulling me in, and when she laughed, it was low and rich, sending a shiver down my spine. The coffee was ready, but neither of us moved for it. She stepped closer, her perfume, something floral, heady, wrapping around me. "You're different today," she murmured, her eyes searching mine. I should have stepped back, made an excuse, but my body didn't listen. She reached for a mug, her arm brushing mine, and the touch was electric, a spark that burned through my restraint. "Laura," I started, my voice rough, but she moved closer, her fingers grazing my hand. "We're alone," she whispered, her breath warm against my cheek. My heart pounded, a voice in my head screaming this was wrong, but her closeness drowned it out. She turned, her movements graceful, and walked to the front door. I heard the lock click, a soft, deliberate sound that echoed in my chest. "Just for a moment," she said, returning, her eyes locked on mine. She was inches away now, her warmth radiating, her scent intoxicating. My hands trembled as I reached for her, hesitation crumbling under the weight of want. Her fingers found my shirt, tugging gently, and when her lips met mine, it was like a dam breaking. The kiss was slow at first, tentative, then hungry, her mouth soft but insistent, tasting faintly of mint. My hands slid to her waist, her skin warm through the thin fabric, and she pressed closer, her curves fitting against me like a puzzle piece I didn't know I'd been missing. We moved to the couch, the world narrowing to her breath, her touch, the rhythm of our bodies. Her hands were sure, guiding mine, her nails grazing my neck, sending sparks through me. Every movement was a pulse of heat, her whispers urging me on, her eyes dark with desire. My guilt screamed, but it was distant, drowned by the fire of her skin, the way she arched into me, alive and unafraid. Time blurred, the room a haze of sensation, her warmth, the soft catch of her breath, the way her fingers tightened in my hair. It was raw, overwhelming, a rush I hadn't felt in years. When it was over, we lay tangled, her head on my chest, the silence heavy. Reality crashed in. Emily, our marriage, the life I'd built. This was a mistake, I whispered, my voice shaking. Laura sat up, her eyes soft, but unapologetic. Was it? She asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She stood, smoothing her blouse, and unlocked the door without a word. I sat there, my heart a mess of guilt and exhilaration, knowing I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. Laura left quietly, and I was alone, the house too still, her scent lingering like a secret I couldn't escape. The days after Laura felt like walking on a tightrope. Every creak of the house, every glance from Emily, made my heart lurch, certain she'd see the truth written on my face. I'd betrayed her, our marriage, the life we'd built over 2 decades, and the weight of it sat heavy in my chest. Yet, beneath the guilt, there was a pulse of something else. Laura's touch, her breath against my skin, the fire that had burned through me on that couch. It was wrong, I knew, but it haunted me, vivid and unyielding, in ways Emily's familiar warmth no longer did. Laura came to the house as usual, twice a week, her presence a quiet storm. She was professional, almost too perfect, polishing counters, folding towels, her movements precise. But her eyes would catch mine, a fleeting glint of that Thursday afternoon, and my stomach would twist. Once, as she handed me a stack of mail, her fingers brushed mine, deliberate and slow, her lips curving into a half-smile. "Careful, Michael," she murmured, so soft I might have imagined it. I turned away, my face burning, and busied myself with nothing, my heart hammering. She knew what she was doing, and I hated how it pulled at me. Emily noticed nothing, or so I hoped. She'd come home late, her briefcase thudding onto the table, her voice bright as she talked about a new listing or a tricky client. I'd nod, smile, ask questions, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying Laura's whispers, her warmth. At night, lying beside Emily, her steady breathing a rhythm I'd once found comforting, I'd stare at the ceiling, guilt clawing at me. What kind of man was I? 20 years with Emily, laughter, fights, raising Zach, and I'd thrown it into question for a moment of weakness. I told myself it was a one-time mistake, a lapse I'd buried deep. But Laura's presence made that promise feel fragile. I started avoiding her, working late when I knew she'd be at the house, staying in my office with the door shut. But the house itself felt different, like it held our secret in its walls. I'd find myself pausing by the couch, remembering her weight against me, the way her hair had fallen across my chest. I'd shake it off, splash cold water on my face, and try to focus on work, on Emily, on anything else. But Laura was a ghost I couldn't exorcise. One day, I found a small note tucked under a book on the coffee table, "Thinking of you. L." My breath caught, and I crumpled it, shoving it into my pocket before Emily could see. Was she reckless, or was this a game? The thought of her telling someone, anyone, made my stomach churn. I watched Emily more closely, searching for signs she suspected something. Was her smile tighter? Did she linger over her phone too long? But she was the same, busy, distracted, her life a whirlwind of showings and contracts. One evening, over dinner, she laughed about a client's lowball offer, her eyes crinkling the way they used to when we were younger. I felt a pang, a mix of love and shame. I wanted to be the husband she deserved, not this man carrying a secret that could shatter us. "You okay, Michael?" she asked, her brow furrowing. "You seem off." I forced a smile, blaming work stress, and she nodded, satisfied. But the lie tasted bitter. I decided I had to end it, whatever it was. Laura couldn't keep working here, not with the way she lingered in my thoughts, not with the risk of her notes or glances giving us away. I talked to her, Tell her we didn't need her services anymore. Keep it professional. The thought of facing her, though, sent a thrill through me, and I hated myself for it. As I drove home one evening, knowing Emily was out and Laura might still be there, my hands tightened on the wheel. I needed to take control to protect my marriage. But deep down, I wasn't sure I could resist her pull, and that scared me more than anything. The house loomed ahead, and I wondered what waited inside. Laura's presence had become a shadow I couldn't shake. Her notes grew bolder, a folded scrap in my jacket pocket, a text from an unknown number. Miss you. L. My paranoia spiked. Every ping of my phone felt like a ticking bomb. I couldn't let this continue. Emily deserved better, and I needed to end this before it unraveled everything. On a Tuesday, knowing Emily was at a client dinner in Stamford, I stayed home, waiting for Laura. The house was quiet, the air heavy with anticipation. When I heard her key in the lock, my resolve hardened. This had to stop. She walked in, her dark hair loose, her eyes catching mine with that familiar spark. Michael, she said, her voice soft, almost a caress. I stood in the living room, hands in my pockets to keep them steady. We need to talk, I said, my tone firmer than I felt. She set her bag down, tilting her head, a smile playing on her lips. About what? She asked, stepping closer, her perfume wrapping around me like a memory of that Thursday. I swallowed, forcing the words out. This, us, it was a mistake. You can't work here anymore. Her smile faded, replaced by a look I couldn't read. Hurt, maybe, or something sharper. She stepped closer, her voice low. A mistake? Michael, you felt it too. That wasn't just a moment. My chest tightened, her words pulling at the part of me that still burned for her. It was wrong, I said, stepping back. I'm married. I love Emily. But even as I said it, doubt flickered. Our marriage was steady, but the fire Laura had ignited was something else entirely. She laughed, a soft, bitter sound, and closed the distance between us. Love? You call that love? You're sleepwalking through your life, Michael. I see it, how you light up when I'm here. Her hand reached for mine, her touch warm, and I froze, caught in her gaze. Leave her, she said, her voice urgent. Come with me. We could have something real, something alive. Her words hit like a shockwave. This wasn't just an affair to her. She wanted me to upend my life, to walk away from Emily, from 20 years of promises, for a future I couldn't imagine. I pulled my hand away, my mind reeling. You're serious? I asked, my voice hoarse. She nodded, her eyes fierce. I've never felt this way, Michael. Not since my divorce. You're what I want. Her sincerity was disarming. Her vision of us together, a life of passion, free from routine, tempting in a way that terrified me. For a moment, I saw it. Mornings with her laughter, nights tangled in her warmth. But then I thought of Emily, her crinkled smile, our shared history, the home we built. Flawed, yes, but ours. No, I said, the word heavy. I can't do that to her. To us. Laura's face fell, her eyes glistening, but she didn't argue. She stepped back, her shoulders straightening. Then I'll go, she said quietly. I won't tell her. This stays between us. She picked up her bag, her movement sharp, and paused at the door. You'll think of me, she said, not a question but a promise. The door clicked shut, and she was gone. I stood there, the house too still, my heart a tangle of relief and loss. Laura's absence left a void, but it also cleared the fog. I looked around, at the photos on the mantle, Emily and me at Zach's graduation, our wedding day. I'd nearly thrown it away for a fleeting thrill. That night, when Emily came home, I pulled her close, kissing her like I hadn't in years. She laughed, surprised, and I vowed to be better, to rekindle what we'd let fade. Laura's memory lingered, a secret I'd carry forever, but I chose Emily, our life, our love. The fire had burned, but it wouldn't consume us.